Everybody, welcome to our Colorado webinar all about media and messaging and telling your Safe Route story. Thanks so much for being here. We have some people who are joining us in the chat box. Feel free to let us know who you are, where you're joining us from. I know we'll have a bunch of Colorado folks, but also people from across the country, which is really exciting. Your connection to Safe Routes, so how you're related to this work. And then also we'd love to hear, just as people are coming in, if you've had any experience either working with your local media or communication staff, maybe at the agency that you work for, to share your Safe Route story. So have you had a reporter come out to cover a Walk and Roll to School Day event? Or a bike rodeo or something else fun happening in your community. So take a moment, say hello in the chat box, let us know how you're connected to Safe Routes, and if you have any experience with this topic of sharing your Safe Route story. We'd love to hear what you all are getting up to in your communities. So go ahead and take a moment to say hello, do a quick share in the chat. You have a lot of really great content today, so I'm going to move us along pretty quickly. So next minute or two, make sure you give a little hello. We'll see who we have here. All right, so we have, like I said, lots of Colorado folks. I see Matt from Iowa, nice to see you. Lori from Pocatello, Idaho, great to see you. Another Idaho person, Lisa, nice to have you on board. I see people from Ohio, Canada, our neighbors to the north, nice to see you all. Some more Iowa folks. Yes, like I said, go ahead and continue to say hello in the chat box. Let us know how you've been able to share your Safe Route stories. I see a few people who have said that they've been able to work with their communication specialists to, curate some content around their Safe Routes work. Getting, local media stations to hand out, swag and volunteer at events. That's another great idea. I see somebody from Baltimore County right on the corner from me. Fritz, and I'm not sure where you are, but probably somewhere close to where I am. Nice to see somebody in my neck of the woods. All right, so go ahead and continue to share in the chat box, please. And I'm going to go ahead and kick us off for today. So, like I said, today's session is all about telling your Safe Route story and using media and messaging strategies to do so. And we really wanted to think about, media and messaging strategies for people who might not be communication specialists or journalists or people who are really deep in this work. And so we hope that the session today can offer some practical tips that you all can use as you're, running your events and activities and thinking about how you can actually share your Safe Route story. I'm Corey Johnson, the Program and Engagement Manager here at Safe Routes Partnership. I know a lot of you have seen me before. I help support a lot of Safe Routes to School programs across the country, and I'm based in Baltimore. Nice to see you all. I think most of you are familiar with our work, but in case you're not, we work to advance safe walking, biking, and rolling, both to schools and also other destinations, parks, libraries, grocery stores, improving the health and well-being of all people. So if you're new to us, welcome. And if you've been here before, thanks for joining us again. Just a quick Zoom reminder for you all, if you could keep your comments and resources and ideas in the chat box, that's great, it'll stay open. If you could keep your questions in the Q&A box, we can kind of keep them organized that way. So comments, ideas, resources in the chat box, questions in the Q&A box. And we're also going to be recording this and sharing slides afterwards. So anything that you missed, don't worry about it. We'll make sure that it gets to you after our session. And just a quick link back to our Colorado Community Engagement Guide, which we reference in all of our Colorado webinars. This is our engagement framework that outlines and highlights some best practices around community engagement. And today we're actually going to touch upon a few different parts of this framework. So partnering with our media and communications partners to help tell Safe Route stories. You can also use some of these strategies to think about implementing your activities and programs. So how will you, incorporate media and storytelling into your next event or activity? And also thinking about sustaining your Safe Routes work. So being able to really use these stories to not only just share what's happening with the community, but can it be used for a funding opportunity or an opportunity to build awareness around Safe Routes to School. So all the things we'll be talking about will also help you really sustain your work as you continue moving forward. That is my very quick overview of our session today. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our wonderful panel of experts. So we'll kick things off with Sam Cole. Sam is a Traffic Safety Communications Manager at Colorado Department of Transportation, or CDOT, puts on these wonderful webinars for us. We're also fortunate to have Deb Stanley, who is a content producer for Denver 7 Morning News. And we'll round things out with Colin Rickman, who is the Director of Communications and Engagement at St. Vrain Valley School District. So a nice lineup of communications and journalism, and we hope that between the three speakers, you all be able to take some great takeaways you can use in your local work. So Sam, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and hand things over to you. And again, any questions you all have, the Q&A box is open and the chat box is open for general comments. So Sam, you can take it away.
Thank you, Corey, so much. And hello from Denver to everybody out there. It's so nice to be with you. Thanks for inviting me to provide this presentation. Let me just get my screen shared with everybody. Okay. So here at the Colorado Department of Transportation, I do two things. I do ad campaigns to get people to be safer drivers. And then I also try to get the news media interested in covering stories about safety on our roads. My particular topic today is gaining the attention of new teen drivers in the state of Colorado, and always trying to find creative ways to do that. One thing that we know about new teen drivers, and really kids everywhere, is they don't want to feel like they're being advertised to. So that makes it extra difficult for us to come up with some kind of unconventional ways to reach teen drivers. And what we did this past year is we've really kind of leaned into this whole aspect of peer-to-peer messaging. On one hand, I could use the conventional approach of hiring an ad agency, paying them $50,000 to create ads, or what we did here, which is what I normally do, and they do a great job, but we wanted to try something different, and that was actually getting teens to develop the ads for us. So that's what this video contest was all about. So what we did, we invited high school students across the state to submit a public service announcement about distracted driving. We know that there's a high rate of deaths in our state associated with distracted driving, and the rate of distracted driving is very high among teen drivers. What we also did was getting a panel of victims, people that have been injured by distracted drivers, to rate those videos. We had a total of 12 public service announcements, or PSAs, submitted from across the state. We set aside some money to pay those finalists to make sure it was worth their time. And in the end, we kind of put on a little gala celebration, invited the 4 finalists, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, where we actually presented them with the money and showed the public service announcements. But this was the image that went across social media channels to try to get teens to submit their videos. We launched the campaign last spring ahead of Distracted Driving Awareness Month in April. As I said, it was statewide, and it was funded by, I think it was a $20,000 grant, $25,000 grant from the Governor's Highway Safety Association. And the funds actually came from General Motors. Totally appreciate those efforts there. Why we did this. There's been a huge increase in the number of deadly crashes that have involved teen drivers in our state, up 37%. And as I said, we know that peer-to-peer messaging is really, really impactful. And we also want to have a culture, a positive safety culture in the state around driving. And that means getting everybody involved at the grassroots level, and which is what we did at schools. We got schools to get students to submit videos, get students talking about the importance of driving safely. And this is where my work with the news media came in. I did press releases and media alerts, press release about the contest, how many, and trying to get the news media to talk about submitting public service announcements to us about distracted driving. And then we did another press release about the winner, and it was great having the winners' names kind of up in lights, so to speak, so they could get some well-deserved recognition. We did a media alert about the event that we held at the Illuminati studio, where we presented the awards. Lots of social media content, and then that celebration for the 4 finalists at Illuminati Studios, which Illuminati was really cool. It's a production studio where public service announcements are usually made, so the kids love seeing this. Some of the challenges that we ran into, a lot of the students like to use music in their videos, and they didn't obviously have the usage rights to do that, which was a challenge because we then took their video and we put a media buy behind it, and we actually spent about $10,000 putting their video out into the public sphere, in the public domain. And a lot of students didn't know that they had to get those usage rights, so they might have had to switch up the music there. It was a little hard getting the attention of students. No surprise there, to enter into our contest. Also contacting winners, it was, we almost couldn't, we had an amazing video that was submitted by our winner, and we almost couldn't contact her because she wasn't responding to our emails. So because email is not such a great way to reach out to students these days. And we didn't get a lot of media showing up, actually no media showing up at our final event, but we did get the media covering the winner. Our outreach generated over 89,000 social media impressions. In other words, lots of coverage, and then 1,300 social media interactions, lots of comments, a lot of interaction amongst the community with what we did. And we got the news media, yay, Deb and others, to cover our stories. So that generated over 100 media stories over a 4-month period about our effort. So that just really had another effect of getting the news media to talk about distracted driving and about teen driving. So really what the teens created was just the tip of the iceberg, and our media buy of the winning teen video, which is the tip of the iceberg. Having the news media cover this and talk about the dangers of distracted driving was a huge icing on the cake here. So I'll play the runner-up video. Hopefully the sound will come in. I wouldn't worry too much about the sound. It's really about the visual. And then I'll show the finalists.
Then we have to like reverse all the way out. Yeah. Maybe the fun skateboarding is.
No, that'd be so good. Just make the.
Bro, check this out.
Yeah, what I really liked about this, I don't know if everybody noticed, but at the very beginning, that little child rode by on the sidewalk, and then they almost hit her. And they kind of went back in time, as we'll see in the next video.
Then we have to like.
And made a smarter decision. It showed how to make a smarter decision. Shut off your phone, put on Do Not Disturb, which is kind of the theme of Kayleen Rudolph's video, which she did a very much similar thing. She was a freshman at Greeley West High School. Those other students went to Lamar High School. And she says, my family is lucky to have never been impacted by distracted driving, but it's something I see far too often and hear about in school. And as I mentioned, we're using her video in our public awareness campaign. And here you go. Yep. So that was it. And, you know, we really think both these students are going to go far with their video careers. They actually, their first passion was videography, and I think that's why they submitted these videos, but it got them interested in traffic safety too. So, glad to take any questions if anybody has them right now. But yeah, that was our campaign. And you're also welcome if you don't, a little shy right now, just send me an email.
Thanks so much, Sam. I actually do see one question in the chat box or in the Q&A box. Haley was wondering how many submissions you had total, and did you feel there were enough sufficient entries?
Yeah,
So I'm curious.
that was one of the toughest parts of this. We got 12 submissions, and you know, we put out the call for a good month. So that is the biggest challenge, getting the attention. Maybe if we had put out the dollar amount, I think we were a little vague at the beginning as to how much money we were offering. We just said get a prize, and for all they know, it could have been, you know, a pack of gum or something. But so I think that probably, I think if we had that $2,000 amount in the original call for submissions that we saw in that first slide in that image, that would have gotten more attention.
Great. And are the videos available online if anybody wants to use them, share them?
I'd have to see if we posted them on our website. I'll do a check right now.
Okay. And one last question. How did you get the word out to schools as far as the contest and soliciting entries?
Yeah, we didn't, as far as I remember, we didn't target schools specifically. We just put everything out on in social media channels that students tend to frequent most. And we just knew going through schools wouldn't be, unless we had a contact there, would be really difficult. I think we did actually send this out to folks that we know that work with students in schools. So we tried all angles.
Great. And one last question about funding. Where did the prize money come from, or funding for this whole initiative? Was that just
it was an initiative from the Governor's Highway Safety Association.
Okay, what you said.
They got the funds from General Motors.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with GHSA, Google them. They're a great organization that sometimes puts out grant money.
Okay, yeah, we can drop a link in the chat for sure. I know, Sam, you have to jump off early, so thank you so much for sharing your work and the work of the students who you engaged. And I know we kind of see these high school video contests across the country, so it's nice to get a little like behind the scenes glimpse into how you've been able to organize that and find success with sharing youth stories. And again, just thinking about strategies you all can use in your own communities, working with young people who are in digital media, who are interested in technology and communications. That can be a great opportunity to share, have them share their own stories and really have that deep peer-to-peer impact. So thanks so much for your time, Sam. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Deb, who's joining us from Denver 7 News. So Deb, over to you.
I am a longtime news producer here at Channel 7, but first-time presenter, so I apologize I didn't do the slide thing. But I think one of the things that can be hardest if you haven't done it before is trying to reach out to the media. And so I have a little bit of advice to talk about that. One of the first things that I would suggest is that you call the newsroom. You can call any TV station, you know, get our number off the internet, call the TV station, ask for the newsroom. Once you get the newsroom, ask them simply, who do I send a news release to, or who do I reach out to if I have a story? Once you've got that, you don't even have to write an official press release if you're not comfortable doing something like that. Just put in the who, the what, the where, the when, and why you're doing it. And especially if you've got some interesting facts to share, and you're going to see that in one of our stories that I'm going to show you that we've done. And if you have a traffic reporter in your market, if it's a big enough city where each TV station has a traffic reporter, you want to reach out to them and let them know what you're doing, especially when it comes to the Safe Routes program and those days of bike to school and walk to school, or whatever you might call it. You'll see in the stories that we're about to show you that that's one of the things that we try to emphasize is the safety angle. So Corey, if you want to play that first video.
driving this morning, you'll need to be a little more watchful than normal. That's because today is Bike and Roll to School Day. So kids will be on their bikes, their scooters, skateboards, you name it, with the goal to get outside and be more active.
We changed the name from Bike to School Day to Bike and Roll to School Day to be more inclusive of all the different ways that we can get to school on wheels. So you could be riding a bike, you could be skateboarding, you could be riding a scooter, you could be rollerblading, or even using a wheelchair or assisted mobility device.
Back in the 1960s, half of kids were walking or biking to school. It's down to just 11% now. Experts say it isn't just good for exercise, it also helps ease stress, reduces symptoms of ADHD, and improves cognitive and motor function.
One of the reasons I liked that
All of
story.
that committed by juveniles.
Sorry about that. One of the reasons I like that story is because we targeted, if you're out driving this morning, we had fun facts that was shared to us from CDOT that back in the 1960s, a lot more kids were walking to school. I like that she was so inclusive in talking about the event, that it's not just walking and biking, but it's wheelchairs and different things. So that was one of my favorite stories that we've done. And then last year, and you guys may think, oh, I'm just this person who does this little project. But this year, a crossing guard reached out to me or to the newsroom and said, hey, don't you want to talk to a crossing guard about how important this event is? And that's the next story.
Well, you may see more kids and parents out on the roads walking or riding bikes to school today. Today is National Walk and Roll to School Day. Organizers hope if your child walks, bikes, or skateboards to school, then they might do it more in the future. And if you live too far away to walk or roll, one crossing guard had some advice.
If you can park a block or two away, or stop your car a block or two away and walk in, then you have a chance to talk with your kid for a minute. They sort of get the wiggles out. They jump around a little bit.
And just park a little further away there. In Denver, there will be special crossing guards at 30 different schools. The mayor will be a crossing guard today, several city council members, Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera, and Clifford the big red dog.
Oh,
Jason,
yeah.
I know you're excited.
Yes, I have to park several blocks away from here, so I can also get my wiggles out.
Well, you may see more.
So again, it was just a normal crossing guard who came over and chatted with us about what they were doing. Yes, they also do have a few celebrities that they try to get to come out every year and do that. And that's something that, let the media know if the mayor is going to come out, or even just the school principal or everybody's favorite third grade teacher. Helping us tell the story and knowing what's there before we get out there helps us know that there's a reason to go to this school or that location to get those videos. I know Sam mentioned about swag. There is swag that you can send out. You could just send a kid's bike helmet to the newsroom and say, hey, put your anchor in this helmet to talk about the importance, or show this helmet to talk about the importance of walking and riding to school. Send a scarf and talk about how make sure your kids are dressing warmer today because it's going to be walk to school day if it's in the winter. But those are kind of my tips is, reach out and tell the newsrooms. They want to hear from you. They want to know what's going on in their community so they can report the story. Ask them to do the story before that day or that morning so that people know about being more careful on their drive, and then ask them to actually come and shoot more parents and kids coming to school, walking and riding.
Thanks so much for sharing those really practical tips, Deb, and for sharing some of the content that you created. Can you just share one more time the department or the name or the title of who somebody should reach out to at the news station when they're contacting people for a story?
Definitely. If you call the regular number and you'll probably get somebody at the front desk, simply ask for the newsroom. If you ask for the newsroom, whoever answers the phone should be able to tell you the email address to reach out to. It's best to send an email a lot of times. If they want to give you to somebody on the phone, they might say, oh, just talk to Mary right now. But typically send an email and tell them what you're interested in having them do. We want you here at 8 a.m. We're going to have this. Tell us what's going on.
Great, thank you. And we also have another really good question in the Q&A box about the kind of language used around news coverage, especially when it comes to covering car crashes or other serious incidents. Is there a way that local jurisdictions or advocates can influence the kind of language that news is using when it comes to discussing car crashes? So, for example, using the term crash instead of accident, and what would be the best approach for that?
You know, a lot of times it's best if you have a traffic reporter that you can reach out to. But you can always send an email to a newsroom and say, please share this with your writers, because that means anchors, reporters, and producers, and anybody else. And just say, here's what we'd like to see you change in your writing. And here's why. Because yes, we are all trying to make that change now that these are crashes and not accidents. But it's something that takes time. And you have to understand that a lot of newsrooms, the employees change over anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And so you might think, oh, I sent that out 2 years ago and they should all know it. But I will tell you that while I have been here a long time, all of the other news producers have been here less than 3 years.
Got it. All right. So key pro tip from Deb, contact your newsroom. Remember that there might be shifting staff in newsrooms. So I'd say stay in touch often. I think that would be a good rule to follow.
And we do have people who reach out a lot. And it's kind of a joke that every time you use the word concrete, we hear from a certain guy who wants to make sure that we understand the difference between concrete and asphalt and all these other things. Yeah. So, you know what, even if you are the annoying person who reaches out to us all the time, at least we all remember that there's a difference.
Yes, and hopefully with Safe Routes people, it's like, you know, sharing some, you know, local feel-good stories too that I'm sure you want to put out into the universe as well. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deb. We really appreciate your expertise and all you've done to cover Safe Routes work around Denver. It's always nice to hear from somebody who, you know, does this and is an expert. So we really appreciate those practical tips. So again, if you're thinking about reaching out to your local news staff, contact the newsroom, email them, and hopefully you'll be able to make some good connections with your local journalists.
And for what it's worth, I am the only Debbie at Denver 7. You are more than welcome to email me at debbie@denver7.com if you have any questions.
Thanks. And can you put that in the chat box as well?
No problem.
Thanks. Thanks, Deb. All righty. And Colin, who will round us out, who's coming to us from St. Vrain Valley School District, I'm going to hand things over to you to talk about your work covering young people in your district.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I appreciate listening to Deb and Sam talk about their roles and what they do with their communications. But I'm going to get my screen sharing here so that you can see my keynote. All right, I hope that's working okay. So I want to talk a little bit about storytelling by design. And this is something I get to do with my work, really utilizing photography and videography to tell the story of my school district. And I know there'll be maybe a little bit of crossover. I tried to hopefully connect with some of the messages that you guys have to, I'm sure, tell, but this will maybe apply to a little bit more of the education stance and some of the things that I'm going to share, but hopefully some lessons can be learned through it. Hopefully too, we can see a little bit of storytelling within all of the images. And just even starting off with this picture I took last year at one of our graduations, I see a lot of hope. I see a lot of excitement. I see a lot of futures, Wyoming and CU and San Diego State and all of these things all over the hats. And I think that there's a lot of power in those messages. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, starting here after I kind of give a little background on myself. So behind me, behind the designer, I'm here in Colorado, just north of Denver, about 40 minutes. I work for St. Vrain Valley School District. St. Vrain is a fairly large school district in Colorado. We service nearly 35,000 students and have about 5,000 employees. We're right here in Boulder County and crossed over into Weld and Larimer. So we service about 411 square miles and have 60 schools and programs. So being at the center of that in the communications department, we get a lot of communication requests. We get a lot of storytelling requests. We connect with newsrooms like Deb's, and we get to do a lot of fun things that are hopefully inspiring people. And much like Sam used in his videos, and the kids that created those, is using a lot of emotion to hopefully inspire and give hope. So I'm a videographer and photographer. That's kind of where I started, and also was a teacher in the classroom. So a combination between education and doing those things, ended up here on the communications team. And I just like to consider myself a content creator, and that I'm always learning. So we're going to talk about the why. We're going to talk about reframing messages, doing a little tips on video, and hopefully we get into some tools that I utilize, and hopefully you guys can too in some of the messaging and content creation that you guys get to do. So first, I'm going to start with one of the videos I created, and enjoy.
We choose to go to the moon. We sink, we swim, we rise, we fall, we meet our fate together.
Here's to the crazy ones.
I have a dream. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Search high and low, scour far and wide. Comb through every inch of this magnificent state, and you'll have a hard time finding a more fitting analogy for life than a race. The hours of meticulous preparation, the boldness to train, the determination to push past limits, the resolve to persevere, the focused goal to win, the steadfast courage to finish.
Together, together.
But this seemingly solitary act of racing is not a lonesome journey, because when you look, you find a simple truth. You never run alone.
Together.
With every step, you are upheld by a throng of champions. With every careen, you are picked up by a web of support, and all noise is drowned by the raucous ovation of the fanatics.
But because they are hard.
St. Vrain Valley schools are running a race. They are chasing hard after preeminence. They are hounding after student success and teacher excellence. And every day, they surpass even our loftiest expectations.
We sink, we swim, we rise, we fall, we meet our fate together.
Stride for stride, we run with the St. Vrain Valley schools. Mile after mile, we equip them on their trek. Year after year, we champion their cause. We are intensely honored to be partners in their journey. We are excessively proud to be amongst their legion of support. We are the St. Vrain Valley Schools Education Foundation, and we run further together.
Okay, so that's something I created a few years ago. And our foundation, of course, is the nonprofit that's associated with our school district. And so we helped kind of create that, but to tell their story and how they're supporting us. And of course, this is all rhetorical, a lot of us in the webinar right now, but it just kind of things to think about. You know, what story was it telling? Was it engaging? What elements did I use to try to engage viewers? And I think that some of those consistent things that we do in some of our videos and some of our messaging are what makes some of these things really powerful. So engagement, sharing our story with intentionality. I used this out of the 7 elements of digital storytelling. I changed up a few of these things, but knowing our audience. I think a lot of us recognize this, but so many times we're moving so fast in our day-to-day life, and we're trying to tell this story and do this, and we have a next task that we've got to do, that we're moving through it, and we're not really thinking about the target audience and what it is the point of view that will engage them. And so that's something that we start with in every one of our creations is something that we talk about on our team, is who are we talking to here and who is this message meant for? And sometimes it's multiple groups. I can imagine that a lot of the stories that you guys want to tell are going to engage, families of students that have kind of school age students in their household. A lot of times too, for us, in terms of a political aspect of what we're trying to do for our school district, we need to engage families that don't have any school age students, that they've maybe aged out of the home or don't have students to begin with. We might have 33,000 students in our school district, but there's over 100,000 people just in Longmont. And so, and we have multiple communities that we service. So thinking about those other communities as well. Having some sort of dramatic key question that keeps a viewer's attention. I think a lot of the point of that video that I was going for is people want to know what the foundation does. So not only was I showing clips of what they actually do, fundraisers through a 5K, they collect backpacks and supplies to give to students. So it's all about the imagery and the metaphor that kind of went with it that helped share that answer to the question by the time that we got done with it. Of course, the emotional content, that's my bread and butter. That's something that I try to do constantly, giving moments for viewers to connect. And I think that's what a lot of us want in watching videos, movies, whatever it is that we're kind of watching, those commercials. We want that moment to connect with it and to feel something. Be authentic to you, your voice. That can be hard sometimes, especially as maybe a public entity. I do all of the social media for our school district. Speaking in St. Vrain tone or voice is different than what I do sometimes personally. But you find that voice and being authentic about what it is we're excited about and what it is that we're looking forward to, and being appreciative and showing gratitude is all part of my voice that comes through St. Vrain's messages. The power of the soundtrack. Sam mentioned this, and this was a good point to bring up, was having music and having some of that background stuff that it can be legally shared. But music can change everything for a story. I feel like if I were to put a different track behind that video you just saw, it would be a very different video. And so I think we know that, but finding the time to choose those things are I think worthy of our time, I guess. Economy, the efficiency in which we tell this story, using just enough content to tell this story. We like to talk about being kind of a generation currently, because of the instant gratification we get through social media, of short attention spans. And I actually like to think of it not as much of a short attention span. I think we have the attention spans, but we are holding everything to a higher standard because everything is created at such a high level. So we just have these expectations that we need to have stuff that is going to tell the story efficiently. We're going to be engaged in it. And some of those things are going to keep our attention. And I might sit there and watch a 5-10 minute video and be engaged in it if it's doing the right job. And then pacing. So rhythm matters, the quickness of shots, the things that we're talking about. Hopefully we're not hanging too long on a certain shot. That's all subjective in forms of art, but I think that is a big part of keeping people engaged as well. And so this idea of designing, being very intentional about what it is that we're creating. So I like to use this because I am a teacher, so I'm going to throw some teacher stuff at you. This is the engineering design process from Stanford's D School. We utilize this in our STEM classes, science, really across the board. And so really some basic things: empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping. Anyone that's kind of creating something engineering wise will go through this process. But I've switched this up just for our own messaging and some of the things that we do with our communications department. And it kind of goes back to this idea of knowing your audience, identifying your message. What it is that are you trying to communicate? Taking the time to brainstorm and brainstorm with others. Doing the creating part is just one piece of this. And I know that sometimes that's the most time consuming piece, but if we put all of these places, these pieces in place before that creation process, I think the creation process goes more smoothly. And so, and then getting feedback, sometimes as creators and content developers, we like to create something and have this little bit of ego about it. And we like to put it out there just and say, hey, this is what it is. This is what I created. But actually getting feedback, and we utilize this on my communications team constantly, which is, get that feedback and make it better and do a little bit that way. So some of those things translate into our tips for the process. And I hope that some of this connects with you guys, but some of these things might be more particular to us, but talking with someone about it. So that kind of brainstorm in our ideas and putting as many ideas as we can. It might seem silly or it might be great until we actually talk with someone about it. Give as many ideas as you can, be willing to be vulnerable. Those are things that I think come with time and experience, but putting our ideas out in the world can be a scary thing. Taking calculated risks, being creative. Those students that they were creative. They were putting awesome content together. And I think that was a very calculated risk. It wasn't over the top. It kept people engaged. And then of course, through that feedback process, having a thick skin, always shove the ego down a bit, be humble through that process, get better together as a team. So I want to talk a little bit about reframing the message. Some of the work that we do in education really has some negative messages around it. And so I want to talk about this idea of impact framing versus deficit framing. And hopefully you guys remember this deficit message.
Okay, last time. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
I have a lot of questions, actually, from this very short, iconic ad campaign put together in the late 1980s. For those of us that were around at that time, I think we all remember that. And but there is a whole thing that kind of came out afterwards, and the effectiveness of deficit messaging is just not there. It's statistically proven that this message did not impact people using drugs less. And so when we're trying to get a message across, sometimes the deficit messaging, even though may be powerful, can be just not as effective as we think it will be. Also, too, there was a whole group of people and farmers that wanted to sell eggs, and they were not happy because people started confusing the message and thinking that eggs were actually dangerous to eat, which is pretty funny, and a lot of studies have been done about that. So we like to use something in our school district around, and really focus on impact framing. So highlighting the positive impact so that our audience believes in the purpose of our mission. And one of the books that we like to pull from, Dr. Frank Luntz, he talks about it's not what you say, it's what people hear. So, just pause for a second and think about that, because a lot of us are saying a lot, but are we stopping to think about what is being heard from others? And that can be jarring and a little bit nerve-wracking to think about, because I think sometimes there's really good intentions in what we're saying, and the purpose behind it is good, but when we say it in certain ways, it can come off as negative deficit mind thinking, and it can turn into a different message. So some of the things that I kind of came up with for hopefully that will connect with you guys is when people say crossing guards aren't respected, what they might be hearing is crossing guards are not important. And when you say something like kids aren't biking or walking to school anymore, they might be hearing it's dangerous to bike or walk to school. And so I'd like to think about this in terms of just the words that we choose, and being a little bit, again, more design oriented or intentional about those with that word choice, and thinking about that crossing guards continue to be an integral part of our school communities. We see in that moment that I think that there's this importance that is laid on crossing guards. Kids biking and walking to school helps to build independence and promotes healthy activity. So the positive nature of why we would want to bike and walk to school, not that we don't have as many or the reasons why it's not happening. We want to talk about why we should be doing it and doing it more often. So that's a little bit about that, a snapshot of kind of that impact versus deficit messaging. A little bit more on video and some of those tips for that, just because that is a little bit more of my bread and butter. So I'm going to show you guys just one last video, something that we created on our team that was around teacher appreciation. Again, emotion, some of the things I talked about before, pulling on some of those things. A really nice tool to use, gratitude appreciation. And just a backstory on that context a little bit is, I think is no surprise to any of you, is that we see a drop in teacher recruitment and people being in the teaching profession, and there's a lot of negative talk around things. So we wanted to speak to the importance of what we are doing, and especially coming out of COVID, which when that message was made, we were kind of coming back out into schools and being full-time again, and we wanted to just show the appreciation of when people take on a challenge and go through hard things, that it matters. So video, tips. I think video has power. Words are optional. I think showing sometimes the imagery around things can be just as powerful. So if you think you have to be the guy or the person that is the voiceover and needing to say something, I don't think that's totally true all the time. In that case, we didn't have any sort of audio of people talking, but we did have text. So it just depends on kind of the use of that. Utilizing a variety of clips to keep things moving, the different compositions, perspective, just keep things interesting. Letting others be your voice, testimonials, talking to that crossing guard, talking to that family that walks and bikes to school, getting their story and hearing about why they like to do it. The best camera is the one that you have with you is always a common phrase, and I love that. Phones are really powerful devices that you can be utilizing all the time. Just know which way you should be holding it for the content that you are creating. If you are creating Instagram content that you want to be on Reels, then maybe you should be doing it vertically. But if you're going to be creating it in other ways, YouTube and other things that you're going to end up, sharing out to people, then you can create in a horizontal way and reframe it for vertical later on. Bad audio is bad. It can distract from the message. And then capturing everyone's attention up front. Hopefully you're getting everyone's attention that they want to continue watching that video. They want to continue to engage with it after just the first few seconds. So those are some of my tips, very quick tips for video. There's the challenge behind this is the actual editing and doing all of the work. And of course, you see some of the tools that I was using in some of our, the videos I've shown today. I was flying drones and other things to help make things more captivating. Those are all things that are not required. They are just added bonuses to help tell those stories. So the last part, hopefully some tangible tips of some things. I wanted to give a little bit of live demos, so bear with me a little bit, and talking about the use of AI and listing tools to help with content creation, especially in terms of social media. So I am going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing here. Let's see. Of course, I'm missing my mouse here. It's gonna. Corey, is there a way that you can stop sharing my screen for me? I'm having a little bit of a malfunction here. Can't see my mouse cursor at all, everyone. So.
All right,
there it is. Now I can see it. Great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share again here and go over to Google Chrome. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this, but I'm going to hop over to ChatGPT. Some of you guys maybe know this pretty well, AI. It is actually, I use the paid version because I just utilize it enough, but there is a free version, the ChatGPT 3.5. It's just a website. It's a chatbot that you can talk back and forth with. If you're not familiar with it, I think a lot of people are at this point. But here at the time, I pre-typed this just so we could save some time, but I wrote, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to write 25 social media posts highlighting biking and walking to school. Ask me some questions to make these engaging posts. So I'm going to just have a little chat with ChatGPT. I hope this, it's giving me there it is. So certainly crafting engaging things. So it wants to know, oh, look at that. It wants to know my audience. Sure. And I'm going to start. So families, school age children. I'll answer just a couple of these to kind of just prove the point a bit. Objective, get more kids to bike and walk to school. And let's see, 3, impact messaging, and we'll keep it right there. So I'm going to give ChatGPT the answer, and let it do its thing. So it's going to give me different ideas, help me brainstorm. Do I have to use these exact ideas? No. Maybe it's a jumping off point. Maybe it's a conversation starter. Maybe it's just helping me to do different things. We're going to talk about, it's talking about challenges. It's talking about different visuals, parent testimonials, counting the miles, local support, highlighting local businesses and organizations that support the initiative, incentive programs. So it didn't really quite get some of the things. It gave me more ideas. So let's see. Those are great, ChatGPT, but I'd like. So it's talking about posts. I'm still living in Twitter land, by the way. I refuse to give up on it. I want Twitter posts with emojis. There we go. Now I'm getting more post type stuff that's going to meet the character reduction requirements of something like Twitter, or X, to be precise. It's also giving me all the emojis, so I'm not going in and searching all of those. It's a time saver. It's a way to do a lot of creative thinking when you don't necessarily have that person. You can do grammar checks. You can do a lot of different things. If you want to be that voice and not necessarily have an AI system write all of the things, it could be a really nice, easy way for you to do some of those things. And I know I'm running low on time, so I just wanted to really, so as ChatGPT still keeps kicking out 25 different social media posts, I'm going to hop over to Canva. And so Canva is another tool that we utilize in our school district, especially for kind of the school level support staff that we have. You know, it might be a registrar or an office, you know, person at a school that doesn't have a lot of tech experience, communications, messaging, and we want to give them tools that are easy, something to create something that's both effective and looks professional. And so Canva is something that we've been able to utilize, and you can see that it's really just a creation website. But if I look over here, I can go to social media, and all of a sudden now I'm looking at different Instagram stories and Facebooks and different things. So if I went to an Instagram story and wanted to create something new, I have a blank screen, but it's going to give me a bunch of different tools and templates to utilize. And there's the free version of Canva that you can take advantage of, but you can also pay for an upgraded, which gives you a few extra tools. We have of course, the education version, which they know that we all need some help, so they give us some pro features to this. So maybe it's a simple checklist that you want to be able to utilize, and then you can actually you can change some of these things. Maybe it's a bicycle that we want to be able to put in there instead, and so that is something that I just wanted to put out there, that this is a really great tool to use, and something hopefully that will help you guys out. And I've been talking a lot. It feels like I'm talking in a room by myself here. So hopefully this has all been helpful for you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, Colin, for, I think like pushing our thinking even a little bit by, incorporating some of the AI technology you've been using, and just those quick tips for posting on social media, how to hold your camera, all of those little practical things that we can use as we are, out hopefully documenting safe route stories in our community. So thanks so much for sharing your expertise and tips, and I appreciate people sharing in the chat about how they've either been doing some of this stuff or looking to do things. Colin, if you could put your contact information in the chat box, that would be helpful as well. I also saw a few people who are asking about tips for language that you can use to contact your newsroom, so I'm gonna get that to you as well. And also, Colin, if somebody wants to find a Colin in their community, whether it's at a school district, or I assume there are people at like local colleges and universities who are videographers who do this work, would that be a good next step for people who might want to kind of dive into videography? Who should they connect with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Connecting with, first of all, reaching out to school district stuff. We all want kids to be safe on their way to school too. So some of those people like me, communications people, finding them on the website would be a great way to do it. Leaning into people that are already trying to be videographers. I have a student group in the school district. There's 25 kids that have come together that I help work with, and they work on video projects, and they can be kind of utilized in that same sense, almost like a SAM type project, except we work with them pretty regularly. And then you're right, Corey, I think college students are a really great way to kind of utilize talent and growing talent, and asking for people to help create their portfolio. Partnering with them around messaging and giving them a story to tell through video or photography is always a great way to do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. And again, thank you so much to Deb and Sam for sharing all of your expertise. I know that I learned some new things today. Hopefully you all did as well. I will be sending out the recording, slide deck, and a survey shortly after the webinar is finished, so make sure you check that out. And thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for your questions and your ideas and your resources. Hope you got some new practical tips for how to tell your safe route story. And we will be back sometime next year with more webinars about Colorado, safe routes to school, and plenty of other topics. So keep an eye out for emails from me over the next few months. Otherwise, have a great one. Thanks for being here, and we will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.